What's up, guys? It's your host Spartanic Arts DXD back with another high school DXD related video. And today we have What If Issei Was Abandoned Part 10. Thank you so much for the support. Once again, let's try to hit 1,000 likes. I know you're in that premiere right now, so go ahead and hit that like button, please. And if you guys want to know exactly when I upload, my upload schedule, click the little blue button to become a balance breaker or a limit breaker today. Thank you so much for the support. And if you join my channel membership, I tell you when I'm going to upload or when the next video is coming out, either 2 days or 3 days beforehand. So just letting you know that now, and that's what you get for joining the channel membership. Also, if you guys want to subscribe to my Dragon Ball channel, which is Ampalpowski, and then also in the description below, Fallen DXD, subscribe to both of those channels. Those are my other two main channels. Thank you so much for the support. I cannot thank you enough. And without further ado, let's thank my balance breakers. Rob the King, Lachlan Yates, Atomic Warlord 58, Crumbling Darkness Fear, Aunt Lewis, The Beast by T3, Colex, Joe Baldwin, Keep Saying 21, Dragon Lord 003, Sinrar Q, X Data Patch Gaming, VR Wolf hashtag 2347, Jordan Patchow, Mazaku, Doctor underscore MLG underscore is the bomb, Asamotus, Grim Fireshot Gamer, and That Round Guy, and Zero Fusion. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker, which is the highest membership tier. So without further ado, hopefully we're probably going to hit 30k after like 2 more videos, so that's going to be crazy. Expect What If Issei had Ultra Instinct the movie to be coming out, hopefully almost at the very exact moment I hit 30k. Who knows? I'll try. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into part 10. So we're picking up the story right in the middle, or at the very beginning, like in kind of the middle / beginning of chapter 6 if you want to follow along. Scene change outside the shopping district. Quite the interesting guy. Issei continued his journey. He saw that according to the clock on a wall, it was around 1 in the afternoon. I want to go to the Fushimi Inari. Before, I wasn't able to tour around it, but I think I'm far away. Maybe I should use my Hellgate, he thought to himself, as he went to look for a dark alley to use it. Soon he reached and one activated his Hellgate. He went into the black portal and soon disappeared from the place he was at. A portal manifested itself in a different place. Issei calmly walked out of it. After seconds, he saw the temple he visited once before. The Fushimi Inari. He had a firm expression on his face. Thankfully, my Hellgate is extremely useful for these types of situations. He appeared in the middle of the busy street, but thanks to the trait of his ability, he wasn't noticed by anyone. Really? Quite the beautiful place, Issei thought in his head. He approached a big red Japanese gate, or torii. That was the entrance of the mountain. Behind it, a big ancient Japanese-styled building was present, also red in color. It had the appearance of an even bigger gate, which had many golden accents on its surface, giving off a refined look. It had an inclined roof that was light brown in color and also looked extremely beautiful. The man of the main gate of Fushimi Inari, and above it, one could see a huge collection of staircases in orange / red torii. Issei walked across the main gate and looked around, seeing 2 bronze statues at the side of the entrance near the main building. There were 2 foxes. One held a key in its mouth, while the other a jewel. Interesting, Issei thought to himself, as he went to search for the route upwards. A sea of people followed him, but it looked like they were coincidentally headed towards the same direction. A huge stone staircase should be seen a couple of steps away, massive amounts of tories adoring, making the staircase have some kind of roof because of them. A few of the torii were small enough for a man not over 1.8 centimeters to walk through, while the others went just as high as the trees nearby. The Red Dragon Emperor continued his walk, not paying attention to anyone, fully concentrated in the scenery of the place. Issei continued in, as he knew how the road divided in 2. Left, he muttered, and walked that way. Some of the tourists behind him chose right, maybe because he looked rather threatening. Only a couple of women were still following him. Some even had their phones in their hands. Ah! A woman screamed with a blush on her cheeks. It appeared she took a picture of him. Give me a break. Issei gained a drop of sweat in the back of his neck. After a little problem, he decided to increase his pace, and using his absurd speed, he left the woman behind. Huh? Where did he go? Some asked themselves, to look around. Issei reached the top of the mountain. A big / orange-red torii was behind him, bearing a similitude to one at the entrance. What a view! The last time I came here, we didn't manage to reach this high up. The view here was magnificent, so we went towards the rock and sat on it. Many buildings tall and small could be seen, and hundreds of trees accompanying the streets were present. Because of the good time of the year, some sakura trees still had their flowers. Issei just sat there not having a single thought inside of his head, but soon something caught his interest. He turned around and saw two male figures dressed in apparently civilian clothing. One seemed to be in his early 30s with a blue dress shirt and black pants with the same color of shoes. He, as well as his golden eyes and hair, had it seemed out of the ordinary. The second man looked younger, by a couple of years, around his mid-20s. He also had the same golden hair, but had blue eyes. He wore military pants green in color and a badge-colored t-shirt. Black boots were on both of his legs. A little out of the ordinary, tourist, but not strange, at least for the majority of normal people. Yokai, Issei quickly noticed through the nature of their aura, but he couldn't figure out their species. Since we are in Fushinari, my guess is a kitsune. Not wanting to get into problems, he quickly vanished from the sitting position, his speed so high it reached the realm of leaving after images. He then reappeared at the top of the tenori. His eyes were never leaving the both of them. He forced his ears a little try to hear to what they were talking about. Man, such a bummer. We can't go to the party that hosted by the Amaterasu-sama. The gold-eyed yokai talked to his partner. You know why? We are far too low-leveled for a party in which gods even may attend, the military-wearing man rebutted the comment of the 30-year-old. A party in which gods appear. Issei listened to their conversation. Intrigued by their words, wanting to know more, he used his senses and scanned both of them without noticing. Mid-tier, mid-class yokai is more than less of a level of reserve of the older one. The other, Issei took his eyes from the older one and looked at the youngest. Low-tier, high-class yokai. It seems the younger generation is taking the lead. Yes, but still, I would have loved to see the couple of goddesses in the flesh, the older man commented with a perverted grin on his face. Is that the only reason you wish to go for? Both Issei and the strict man thought the same thing. Ha! The strict man let out a sigh filled with tiredness, while his partner, although older, was more like a child. Oi, come on, don't be like that. He tried to console the younger one. We found a treasure that was lost a couple of centuries ago. You should be happier. I know, but still, letting his feelings out, he sighed. Soon, the younger man thought of another thing that had him rather confused. I don't know how exactly they got the treasure. They told us they found it when they were doing damage repair back in Nasuno. But I believe something is off. The older man was surprised. They didn't tell you? Thanks to being of higher rank, thanks to his age, he got the true information behind the mystery of the treasure. You know? Shh, lower your voice. He quickly covered his mouth and started to look around, not looking up where Issei was. Yes, I do. After all, I have a higher position than you, even if you're stronger than me. What are you waiting for? Spill it out, the strict younger man. Let his personality aside with stars in his eyes, he asked the man. Where did your strictness from a moment ago went to? Issei made the mental note. Fine, I'll tell you, but it needs to be a private location, he seriously commented, getting a nod from his partner. The two of them started to walk around. Their destination was part of the mountain that wasn't open to the public. They went behind the gate. They were currently at the soon-crossed line that separated the mountain in half. Issei was interested. A treasure. The truth behind it. Smells like an adventure. Something he rather liked. Fuck it. He decided to follow them. A pair of sharp, pitch-black wings made their appearance behind his back. They appeared to be detached from his back, magically floating behind him. He flapped one of them, and a second later he vanished. He was extremely fast, to the point that the air wall formed in his surroundings. Do not break the sound barrier. If he did break it, then someone will notice something was amiss. Another flap of his wings, he once again saw the two yokai. From this time deep inside the small forest of a mountain, the older man released his true form. A fluffy and a pair of sharp pointy ears became visible on the top of his head. Issei, seeing this, knew his guess was right. So he was indeed a kitsune. Still, in the air he used his darkness to cover his left shoulder and right thigh, hiding his presence to the point that the old man couldn't detect it. We're alone. No one noticed us. Issei smiled when the yokai mentioned this. Now, the reason that we found the treasure. Both Issei and the younger man paid attention to this. Issei casually landed on a thick tree branch near them to hear the battle. He did not want to miss this. It wasn't found on a ruin during the repair. It was found on someone, the older man explained, getting an amazed look from the military dude and a nod of acceptance from Issei. He suspected that. After the destruction caused by the beast, we did go to do our repair jobs, but what we didn't expect was for a strong yokai to be the provenance of Nasuno. The yokai had the treasure. Who was that yokai? The strict guy asked his partner, getting another nod from Issei. He also wanted to know that. You won't believe it. Just say it, old man. Issei was getting tired of beating around the bush. Just say it. It seems that he wasn't the only one. Fine, fine. Yeah. Don't get your panties in a twist, he said with sarcasm. It was found on a female kitsune yokai. He answered and managed to get a deadpan look from his partner. And, he asked back, it was a nine-tailed fox. That was the information both Issei and 20-year-old wanted to hear. The first to react was the 20-year-old. What? A nine-tailed fox? If I'm not wrong, only nine-tailed fox is Yakuza-sama, he muttered under his breath. Unless, the young man widened his eyes in realization. He soon took some steps back in shock and fell to the ground. Indeed, the older one smiled at the scene. A nine-tailed fox, that red hair with a tinge of black, also known as a Kyubi no Yoko, an ascendant of the three most evil yokai, a descendant of Tamio no Mei. Issei was shocked. A descendant of Tamio no Mei? Weren't they exterminated? Issei remembered reading about it. Yeah, they were eradicated a couple of 100 years ago. It seems the younger man thought the same. They were supposed to, he nodded his head, but it seems the survivor escaped and continued the legacy. When we found her, she proved to be extremely strong. I was present when we had to take her down. It took an entire squadron of ultimate-class yokai just to subdue her. The man shrugged as he remembered that day. What happened to her? The man was scared. An entire squadron just to subdue her and not kill her. Obviously, they wanted something else from her. She was jailed here in Kyoto. Issei was happy about the info. Maybe I can offer her to join my team if I free her. He did this with malicious intent, of course. I don't know the exact location because they refused to give it out. After all, it would be quite dangerous if it's known, his tone deadly serious. The only thing I know is that she's inside the Arashiyama. The bamboo forest? Why there? Beats me. I just casually heard as the two superiors were talking. Arashiyama, huh? Issei was lost in thought. That place was quite big, and it will take some time to explore it all. And finding someone was even harder. Then what about the treasure? That also the question piqued Issei's interest. I also don't know. They didn't tell me at all. The man was quite angry at the sincerity of his superiors. A treasure so important that they won't tell it about? Issei was kind of excited about it. Now he knew his destiny for travel. Arashiyama, here I come. He was about to leave when he heard another question, so he stopped midway. Then what about Yakuza-sama and Amaterasu-sama? Do they know about how they got the treasure? The man asked. He knew that if both of them knew about the descendant that she wouldn't be jailed. Of course not, he scoffed. Both of them are far too naive and will let her roam freely. They are even capable of offering her a high position. After all, she's quite strong, an extremely rare species of yokai, so the superiors made the story of casually finding it. Good. A traitor should be executed. The young man raised his voice, getting a smirk from the old one. It appears that she's despised by the yokai, even if she's just a descendant. Issei was disgusted by the look in both the yokai's eyes. Trash, Issei muttered under his breath, debating whether to kill them or not. He soon changed his mind. During this time period, if anything were to happen, it will alert everyone, and his newly formed head will go down the drain. He turned around and jumped high into the air, not letting anyone sense him at all. When he reached a sufficient height, he used his darkness and formed his pair of wings. He flapped them and vanished from the spot. Freely flying in the sky, Issei was focused on his thoughts. Where should I go? Arashiyama was so huge, so he didn't know where to land. Fuck it. Let luck be my guide. He increased his speeds, breaking the sound barrier. Time skip 4 hours later. How big is this fucking place? Issei screamed. He spent more than 4 hours in the shitty bamboo forest, but aside from a few boars and squirrels, nothing else was seen, not even a human being. You gotta be kidding with me. How am I supposed to find someone in this huge fucking place? Cursed the highest capacity of his lungs. He sat on the nearby rock. He then laid down and watched the sky change from a clear blue deeper one and clouds covering the majority of it. A few nearby the bamboo trees covered extremes of his vision. A couple of cherry blossom Japanese maples could be seen here and there, some of their leaves falling to the ground because of the winds, making the gray and brown forest look lively with their pinks and reds. Huh. When will I find something? Issei was still on the rock, lamenting that he couldn't find anything. He heard a noise behind him and stood up. He prepared his left arm to summon rebellion, just in case of anything. He stood out of the origin of the sound and saw a couple of bamboo trees moving from one side to another. Come! Prepared for anything, he said, thing behind the trees. But he only got disappointment. Ooh, ah! A small monkey, not taller than his knee, came from the top of the bamboo tree. Issei only blinked in confusion and sensed the monkey, finding nothing wrong when he released his guard. Oh. He sounded exhausted, a monkey of all things to lose my cool. His hand that was prepared to summon rebellion at any time relaxed. The monkey was looking directly at him, not breaking visual contact. Weird monkey, he looked back at the monkey. A moment after that, the monkey made noises and pointed its little hand towards Issei and back to himself continuously. What are you doing? Issei confused, and asked the monkey, whose only response was to move his hand in odd fashion even more. You want me to follow you? The monkey nodded and screamed even more. He jumped in his place to signify that he was excited. Follow a normal-looking monkey into the depths of a forest? What could go wrong? Issei thought to himself. Well, nothing better to do. He just shrugged his shoulders and walked towards the monkey, who even looked more excited. He continued to follow the monkey that was walking in a funny way. After a couple of minutes, maybe around half an hour, the monkey stopped and turned around, jumping and squealing like crazy. So we're here. He some way or another figured out what the monkey wanted to say. The monkey jumped into the nearby tree and climbed it. The vision without the monkey was that of a huge plain, massive rocks in different sizes, from a small pebble and an actual hill. Many other monkeys were climbing the surrounding bamboo trees or playing with the stones and the other monkeys. This is your home? Issei asked the monkey, was climbing of the tree. The monkey only started to squeal in return. Quite a beautiful place you got here, he complimented. I wonder if Mount Hyago will be anything like this. He looked around as he saw the many monkeys playing, sleeping, or just staring at him. It seems they don't think of me as a threat. Quite weird. He didn't understand why the monkeys looked at him with no fear in their eyes. He also couldn't understand why they were so smart. At least the one that brought him here was incredibly smart for a normal monkey. The one that brought him here climbed down the tree and stood in front of him. They held a staring contest in which, after a few moments, the monkey broke it and squealed. It appeared that he was accepted here. So, does that mean you accept me as a visitor? He asked the monkey, who only tilted his head. I guess I asked for too much. The monkey did another ooh-ah, and then he nodded his head. He understood me? He was stunned at the nod of the monkey. I can't believe I'm doing this. Remembering why he was here in the first place, he muttered to himself, well, I literally have nothing to lose. He steadied himself and looked directly into the monkey's eyes. I'm looking for someone. She's a fox with red and black tails. Have you seen her? It appeared that he finally lost the sanity he had left. Here goes nothing. Using his darkness, he manifested what he'd hoped was a fox tail and a pair of ears to make the monkey understand. Then he pointed at the red parts of his darkness and said, Seen someone like this? You, monkey. The monkey finally understood and nodded with a dumb grin on his face. You have? He was shocked. The monkey nodded his head. Would you take her to me? He asked the most important question. The monkey, for the fourth time, nodded his little head. Then the monkey began to squeal and other two monkeys came by his side. They just looked like him, black in color, but their one looked a lot older. He squealed at Issei and did the sign which he pointed to himself and then at Issei. I'll follow you. Issei activated his darkness, turning it into stains covering his shoulder and left thigh. Lead the way, Issei smirked. The monkey squealed and the other two jumped up down the trees. It seems his only guide was a clever monkey. The monkey came closer to him and pointed at Issei's shoulder. Knowing what a monkey meant, he let him stand on his shoulder. Where to? The black monkey pointed in direction. Issei followed the finger. A couple of minutes went by. Issei could only hear the trees moving, maybe because of the other two that accompanied them. The monkey, every now and then, pointed at another direction, which Issei just followed in silence. After another hour, the sky was starting to darken. Perhaps he had another hour or two before the light. The monkey on his shoulder squealed and then jumped off his shoulder, landing on the ground. He turned to look at him and just pointed at the direction. In the distance, Issei could see a small mountain. That's the place, he asked the monkey, which in turn only nodded. Then he walked closer towards it. Seeing that the monkey was not only coming with him, he tilted his head. Not coming, the black monkey only nodded its little head and waved his hand, maybe as a sign of goodbye. Issei saw this and smiled. He then waved back at the monkey, which turned back to him and left while climbing a tree. Thank you, you were a great help. Turning around, Issei looked at a new destination, a mountain in the distance. Walking a couple of meters, he sensed something. Yokai! He could sense the presence of them. Walking over, or closer, he reached at the end of the forest, only seeing a humongous mountain which covered a great part of the sky. 2, 6, 10, all at least low-tier high class. He spotted only 10 yokai outside making guard. I shouldn't kill them, only knock them out. Less things to cover up. Walking closer to the left, where the less guards were patrolling, he prepared his move. An Amujaku. It was a small yokai that made people wicked. In other words, it cursed them. It was small in shape and had the appearance of a small oni, a meter tall. At incredible speed, he approached the nearest guard. He used his darkness and covered only a small part of his left hand, then hit the back of his neck, knocking him out. One down. He grabbed his unconscious body and silently let him fall onto the floor. Maybe I should make the restraints just in case of anything. He used his darkness again, made a couple of simple looking ropes, and tied them to the ground, even one covered his mouth. Good, even if he wakes up, he won't be capable of doing anything. He then went towards the second yokai, the one being Baku, a spirit which devoured dreams and nightmares. It held no physical body and looked like a normal ghost. Mid-tier high class, huh? Covering even more of his hands in darkness, he went for it. Bam! Punching his face as hard as he could, he once again succeeded. So, my darkness can even punch spirits in beings that have no physical body. Pretty good. He discovered something new about his darkness. Issei repeated the process on all 8 remaining yokai. These ones were either normal, red, or blue Onzutengus. He cuffed them like the first one and discreetly went inside the gate. Damn, this place has so many different roads. He noticed the cave divided itself into 7 different roads, all looking exactly the same. They were all gray, with few stalactites hanging off the cliff, rocks and puddles of water on the floor. I'll have to use my senses. He closed his eyes and let his dragon senses kick in. He felt the auras of many yokais, but not one of them appeared to be a separate location, and it dwarfed everyone else in this cave. Bingo, he muttered, as he felt the enormous reserves of magic the last yokai implemented. That's at least a top-tier ultimate class, maybe even more. He couldn't hide the smile on his face. Before, maybe I could only fight in my true queen form, and that's just to match it, he gulped. If he could do that, and get trapped the yokai to agreeing to become part of his team, then he would be an extremely powerful ally. Time to move! The dragon moved inwards, finding a couple of yokai here and there, and of course knocking them out and binding them. When will I reach the end? He muttered, annoyed at the length of the deep of the cave. After those words, Issei saw at the end of the cave. It was huge gray rock with a single metal door at the bottom of it. The door was seemingly made out of the lead and other metals. Some he could identify as being magical in a way. The black door looked thick and heavy, glimmering with a dull light. A couple of Onimino talismans were attached to the door and even a wall at the sides. That's quite the few defenses for a single intern. Although he couldn't understand what those spells did, he could see they were extremely strong. Okay, that's the first problem. He took note of the door at the furthest ends, then he looked at the ones guarding it. All are top-tier high-class boarding ultimate class. The one at the entrance of the door is a mid-tier ultimate class. Issei was amazed by this setup. The mini guard's just for you. It seems they really do not want you to get out. He looked at the surroundings, finding the 5 yokai. Well, being sneaky is no longer an option. A fight will definitely break out. I will need to take them out as fast as possible. He made his plans and looked at the yokai present, trying to figure out their species and weaknesses. We have an Enko, similar to the turtle, but twice as hard. He furrowed his eyebrows, annoyed at that. 2 Furibi creatures composed entirely of flames, while the other 2 Kitsuris, including ultimate class. He was glad he learned about them during the last week he read. Thanks to that, he could more or less guess their abilities. Man, why are we standing guard here? We could just kill her and end all of this. The amphibian creature made the comment. His voice sounded raspy and old, like a rusty piece of old steel. You know why, the voice sounded irritated. We have been tasked with the honor of guarding her, and after the party hosted by Amaterasu-sama is finished, they will execute her. One flame spirit rebutted the comment. He looked at a cluster of flames in the human form, without a face. Even his voice sounded like a normal human. I know, but still, we could have gone to the party. The turtle didn't give up and talked back. No one among us would be able to go, the weakest Kitsune said calmly with the arms crossed. Although they say it's open, many strings were pulled behind the curtain and let only important people in. He was a white single-tailed kitsune, in appearance of a human male in his 30s, wearing black training gear and black boots, contrasting with color of his ears and tail. True, Everyone looked at the direction in which they sensed something. A man was walking out of the darkness of the cave. Just a look from him made everyone stay on guard. This is bad. The ultimate class got rid of his lax stance and focused on the man in question. The man in front of them seemed to be absurdly dangerous, but by the level of magic reserves, he was above the low-tier ultimate class. However, that didn't scare them. Rather, it was an aura he irradiated. It was dark, endless, and suffocating. Move. The cold voice of the man was heard, making everyone's hair stand on air. Who are you? The ultimate class Kitsune had a drop of sweat in his brow. Move, was Issei's answer. You look extremely young, but you have much so magic reserves. What are you? The older Kitsune asked, trying to hide his nervousness. I see, you're scared of my reserves. Issei glimpsed his eyes with a cold light. Well, For us dragons, our magic reserves our aura, and we certainly have a lot of advantages compared to all the other races. He thought of that as a matter of fact. The density and purity of it, making us hit harder and use more frequently, and once our aura awakens and take physical forms, the effect is hundreds of times as big, so I don't blame you for being scared. Answer me! The yokai was getting desperate. In his hand was a couple of talisman could be seen, and his body was covered in toki. Physical fighter, Issei deduced. He won't talk, so let's beat the information out of him, the turtle told his team members with a smirk, a blue aura surrounding him. Senjutsu, Issei asked, intrigued by the subtle aura. Indeed, the turtle proudly smirked. Senjutsu is the manipulation of natural energy in our surroundings, and some are even capable of manipulating life force of living beings. So what? Issei tried to anger the turtle and get more information out of him. After all, no books on Senjutsu were recorded on the library. A vein popped out of the turtle's face. Shut up! Although it's not comparable to Senjutsu of the new ambassador, mine is pretty good. I can manipulate all the natural water, spilling the beans. His teammates facepalmed at the comment of the turtle. New ambassador? Issei asked back. The turtle rang a bell. Yes, Kuroka-sama, the new ambassador. His voice would fill with adulation. Her senjutsu is so powerful that she's capable of manipulating all natural elements, while some of us at much can manipulate one or two. She's also a future wife of the war hero, Issei Hyodo. Ha! Issei laughed loudly, his voice warmed. You're something else completely, Kuroka. I really don't know what to say, happy at the memory of the black kitten, he laughed in delight. The rest were shocked by the tone in his voice, but he didn't let their guards down. Thanks for the laugh, but I still need to accomplish my mission. Issei stopped his laugh and changed into a serious mode. I'll say it one more time. Move. He summoned his darkness and coated both hands, muttering, Rebellion. A small portal made its appearance in front of his hand, and a short curved blade that looked more like a short sword came out of it. Seeing the yokai still on guard, Issei thought, You're looking for it. With a speed not perceivable by the naked eyes, Issei sped forward. Like a blur of black light, he just went for the turtle. But in an instant, the strongest kitsune appeared in front of the turtle, his entire forearm covered by a thick blare of Tokyo. Bang! He blocked the swing from the blade, but it didn't stop the ground from denting it, nor his arm getting cut by the blade. How strong is this guy? The force of the impact made the almost kneel. The guy possessed ridiculous strength. I need to use my talisman. Twisting his hands to parry the attack and the slip off his arm, he created a small gap to use his Omodobo arts. Created a flood of water order. From the talisman in his hand, a huge wave of water came forth. Now this is interesting, but I need to end it fast. Sorry. Issei held back an arrogant smirk. Issei coated his blade in his Hellblaze, compressing them to fit his entire length of the blade. Kami Shikigori. His voice was like an executioner. Issei made his downward slash, and while slashing his blade, a huge mass of black-purple flames came from it in the shape of curved slash. The moment they touched the torrent of water coming for them, the flames completely evaporated it. The fire continued its path, not hindered by anything. The attack landed on every single yokai behind the ultimate class, knocking them out, to put it pretty. That was a move he practiced since he discovered his Hellblaze, and more he compressed his flames around the edge of the blade, the stronger the power he will get. Although I held back, it still caused a lot of damage, he said nonchalantly, while resting the blade on his shoulder. Among the yokai, only the ultimate class was still standing, covered in burns and barely breathing, but still standing. It seemed that he took most of the attack on purpose, and the reduced damage for his partners. However, the rest were still wounded and unconscious on the floor. Impressive, you actually survived, he complimented the yokai. Monster, the kitsune muttered while falling to his knees. Monster, he sounded amused. Sorry, but that at most would be capable of wounding a mid-tier ultimate class, at least that level. The thing is, you're too weak for an ultimate class, he answered without a shred of mercy. The yokai just fainted after hearing the words. Well, time to go for the door. The dragon walked past unconscious yokais and reached the thick door covered in talisman. Quite the spells, he praised, with a bored look on his eyes. Now, how am I going to destroy these? He mumbled as he touched the slightly burnt talisman. Ooh, perhaps that could work. Issei placed himself into an itidori stance. With his blade on his lip, he coated its short sword in darkness, but without making his flames appear. My darkness is capable of vaporizing anything it touches. If I compressed it and use it on the blade, then... Swoosh! He swung his sword across the talisman, while holding his darkness on the edge of it. It was at this very moment that the talisman separated into two diagonally in a way. Success! He raised his hand up in glee. Now I only have to do it a couple more times. After repeating the process, the door was left alone, not a single talisman on it, but a problem was still there. They locked and reinforced the metal of it. He clicked his tongue, annoyed. I don't think they would have left the key with any of them. If they had, a lot more yokais would be stationed here. Issei then looked at the lock of the door, glistening with a dull gray light. Looks thick and tough, but I don't care. He summoned his Hellblaze and surrounded his left hand with it until it had uncovered his entire wrist. Clang! The echo of metal getting struck spread through the grave. Issei had punched the lock with all of his might, successfully denting a big part of it. Following this, the flames surrounding his arm heated the metal to point it and glowed red, efficiently melting it little by little. The Drake pushed his hands inwards, liquefying the entire lock, and soon the door opened. Easier than I thought, Issei said to himself. He extinguished the flames in his arms and looked around the room. Not a single jail cell was seen. Instead, a woman was shackled against the wall, lifted around 6 or 7 meters into the air. Her limbs were perfectly bounded by chains, while the shackle's surface was entirely covered in talisman that were colored in a yellow light. Talisman reinforced with overlapping senjutsu spells. Issei knitted his brows, amazed by the security inside. He went closer and saw that in the wall behind her, even more talismans were present, adding another layer of security. All of them were arranged in shape of a pentagram, each point of it perfectly aligned with their limbs and with her chest oriented towards the center of it. Are they really that desperate to keep her here? She was the only one inside the entire jail? This seems ridiculous. Unfortunately, because there was no light, apart from the Onomoto spells inside this place, he couldn't really distinguish her appearance, only the silhouette. Who are you? Her voice was raspy, desperately in need of water. I'm the one that came to save you, he answered her question. Why? She asked again. Her red eyes could be seen in between the banks of her hair that covered the entirety of her face. Because of two things. He lifted his fingers. First, he put down his fingers, because I want you to be part of my team. And second, because I hate how they talked about you. Issei's eyes glowed dangerously. Issei was extremely angry. He never thought that just because of being the descendant of someone, would they be treated so badly. Chased throughout Japan as if a criminal. The woman, on the other hand, was surprised by the tone of his voice. It was extremely odd, but more than that, she could sense the feeling of anger he had at the mention of her treatment. That piqued her interest. Why are you angry? It's not like you're being affected. She looked into those black and red eyes of his, slightly alarmed by them. Issei, in exchange, saw those empty eyes of hers and was momentarily stumped. He knew those eyes. How many times had he stared at those eyes in the mirror? How many times had he seen that empty look? That glare that showed that he gave up on everything. Too many for his taste. He stayed silent, trying to ignore the bad memories that he had, but he refused to. He needed to be better, to face his past head on, and let it rest at last. He promised to himself that for that to happen, he needed his help for this woman. Forget everything else. If he couldn't help someone that had that look in their eyes, that expression on their face, then what was the point of getting out of the cave? Issei took a deep breath and steadied himself, his eyes filled with determination. He wanted to help this woman, one way or another. It's simple, he explained. The children do not carry the sins of the parents, he stated while looking at her eyes. You're innocent, and just because of being a descendant of the Tamyo no Mei, they treated you like a criminal, like you're evil? What kind of bullshit is that? The woman heard her extreme surprise by closing her eyes. Not once has someone called her innocent. Not once has someone been angry because of her. All of this was new. They treat you like a plague, like someone of bad omen. They leave you, chase after you, scorn and assault you, just because you're related to someone. His voice filled with barely concealed fury. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Is being related to someone bad? Is it your fault that she did what she had to do? And even if she did was wrong, have you ever thought about why she did it? His words echoed inside her mind. All books, stories, and information state that she did it because she was pure evil, because she was malicious spirit that she wished for everything to end, but is it true? The man's word made her widen her eyes. She expected for someone to think like that. His words definitely struck really deep inside her heart, of that she was sure of. If so, Then what about the people that do evil things? He quoted his words. What about the mother that leaves her husband and takes her children with her? Is that wrong? Isn't leaving a kid without a father bad? Then why is it considered when she does it terrible when a man actually takes the kids? Why do people look into the eyes of the mother's case? Why do they assume it's automatically good if she did it? I'll tell you why. Plain hypocrisy, he scoffed while crossing his arms. What about the killing of the dictator, a terrorist, a rapist, a serial killer? Killing is indeed wrong, but sometimes things need to be done. A little talk won't cut it. More drastic measures are needed, and even if it's wrong, even if it's evil, it has to be done. Issei walked one side of the jail cell to another, constantly talking and moving around. There was no good person nor bad person in the world, because it's impossible to be entirely good to one entirely bad to someone. So why do they assume that you're evil when they don't know you? Why do they speak like the bat behind your back when they don't even have the courage to get to know you? Issei was definitely angered by all of this. His entire speech was making the woman tremble with all of his words. Was it right? Was it wrong? In this messed up world, deciding what is right and wrong is not easy, and for some, the definition is very different and even blurred. He crossed his arms underneath his chest. Is it right to assume that because you're related to someone you're automatically evil? You're inherently bad? He stared at her with unyielding eyes. If so, then by that logic, if you're a devil, you're naturally bad. I mean, there are worldly renowned in the Arsnir incarnations of evil, he asked, mainly to himself. I can say by experience that there are indeed devils that embody the very concept of evil. He quoted his last words again. But there are also many good devils who help others and wish for their happiness over their own, who wish for peace and not many more senseless slaughters. So in the end, even beings that were supposed to be evil by nature, that were depicted to be the worst of the worst this world has to offer, and were written as wicked in the infamous book across history, turned out to be good. Then, with that kind of right, do we have to judge others because of their race, their relatives, ancestors, or even their way of thinking? He smirked. If we were wrong about that, and who exactly is evil, then what else were we wrong about? He paused for some brief seconds to let his words sink in. How about the other side of the coin? What about the good? He moved his hand and landed in his place on his chin. Is it being related to someone kind, courageous, gentle, just overall good makes you a good guy? Sarcasm flooded his voice. Does it make you the hero of saving the world, the knight slaying the evil dragon? The answer is no. His voice was serious. I have met descendants of heroes, angels, humans, and dragons that were supposed to be just, supposed to be, but in the end, they all turned evil. His words made her keep in silence. They kidnapped a mother and took her away from her daughter, using her for cruel, ruthless experiments. They fell from their grace because of the wishing star, a war, and wanting to prove that they were the best of all the races. They killed because of greed and envy, all for personal gain. They fell to their wrath and their pride, causing destruction and chaos, even slaughtering anything that stood in their path, he narrated. The ones that were supposed to be good, that had legends speaking volumes of their greatness, of their kindness, or of their benevolence, did even more evil things than the so-called villains. He shrugged his shoulders. By that, you should learn that you just can't go judging by someone else's rules, but their so-called appearances and outside their looks. He was totally honest. The woman was awestruck by his words. She knew he was right. Everything that he said made sense. Too much, in fact, even her. That Oliver had been hunted down like a dog. That even being called evil, abomination, aberration, knew that his words were right. So in her mind, a little bit of hope started to blossom. Maybe there are people that were different from the rest. This man in front of her eye was proving right now. If you let yourself be controlled like that, you'll just become a puppet that can't make decisions of its own. You have to live with your own rules. Issei then stopped walking and walked as close as he could towards her. Don't let those words hurt you, he pointed at her. They are just side characters, people of no importance. Their words are just useless blabbering. Dumb words from people that don't know what they're talking about. What matters is what you think about yourself. What you truly think you are. Are you a mindless beast that rampages everywhere it goes? Are you a saint that helps the poor and afflicted? It doesn't matter, because in the end, you are the one that gives value, that gives meaning to your own life. Maybe all this talk touched a soft spot of his. The woman was startled by all this. She couldn't understand. Why was he saying all of this? Why was he saying it to her? What did he gain from it? Her mind was made from the mess and everything she just experienced in such a small amount of time. So, in the end, using all of her strength, she yelled at him, asking for answers. Why? Why are you saying all these things? How would you know I'm not evil like they say? Why do you say that I'm not bad like they say? She screamed at him, tears falling from her face. You are someone that's different from what they say. I know it, since those eyes of yours are not the most of a mindless beast wishing for chaos, or those that went mad and wished for blood. His voice was calm. You have been alone far too long, on a world that rejects you. That's why I want you to have a sense of worth. I want you to see that not all of the world is bad. He further explained his words. In the beginning, he only came for her to join his team, but the moment he saw those eyes, he changed his mind. Those eyes of yours had no evil, but also don't hold anything to live for. They are the exact same eyes I used to have, and they disgust me. I'm disgusted at my former self for giving up, for trying to end his life more than once, just because things were extremely bad. I will not let you end the same way as I did. I will not let you give up on your life just once as I did. She simply widened her eyes. Tears could be seen falling from her, hitting the dull gray floor of the cave. His words, his attitude, they definitely reached her. You are just a normal woman that has been through too much. Those words seemed to affect her more than anything. Worth is not what others tell you. Worth is what you think about yourself. If you think that, like they say, you're nothing, then you're nothing, he shrugged. Think about yourself as peerless, as matched to no one, because if you think like that sooner or later, you'll be like that. Do not compare yourself with others. That's just an insult to yourself. Issei spoke about his wisdom and his life he had experienced. In past, he always compared himself to others, to Vali like a warrior as an rival, to Saji as a human, to Kiba as a man, to Sarah Org as a devil. Because of that, he couldn't reach his full potential. Because of that, he never focused on himself, always thinking of what others would say about himself, of that he never made a path of his own. That changed. That changed the moment inside that cave. The moment the pieces were slowly peeled off his body. The moment when he felt that he was gaining his freedom back. He gained his senses back and then stopped caring about what others thought of him. Because of their thoughts, of the ones they said they loved him, he suffered too much for far too long. Right now, he was walking the path he thinks is better. By knowing more, learning more, and experiencing more, he will be better. And by being better, he would help people just like him, that have been through too much. Like the woman in front of him. That's what he thinks, and he knows it's right. If someone tells him otherwise, then fuck them. The female stayed silent. Apparently, his words made her open her eyes. You want me to help? She cautiously asked. Of course, he answered back without hesitation. And what about that team of yours? She asked back. Oh, right, about that. He suddenly scratched the back of his head. I'm in the beginning. I thought I'd only ask you to join me, but after seeing you, it changed. Let's say I would like to see those eyes with light of life again, he explained. So I'll help you even if you don't decide to join my team, he answered, as his back and black and red eyes shone brightly. Those eyes, although frightening, were enough proof for her. Maybe I could trust you. If you help me to achieve it, then not only would you gain my trust, but she kept the last part of her words to herself. Then I promise you that if you help me, I'll join your team. And more, she secretly said in her head. That statement made Issei smile and say, What do you want from me, m'lady? He joked to relax the ambient. The woman smiled at him. First, I want you to take me away from here, free from my prison. Sure, consider it done, he said with a confident smirk on his face. Second, I want you to help me get back a treasure that belonged for generations to my family. That piqued Issei's interest, but still nodded. Okay, but what is the treasure? A treasure that was given to Tamio no Mae by that bastard son of Emperor Toba, she told him. And that is? She smirked at the question. One of the greatest treasures of Japan, representing movement, the Yakasani no Magatama. What? A long-lost treasure was always on the hands of Tamio no Mae. How did she get that? Wasn't it a long time ago? She smirked at the look in those eyes. It seems that he's not only cold, wise, and kind, but also goofy in a sense. Cute. I'll tell you. But before she could explain the story, Issei interrupted her. Wait, before that, I should bring you down from that place. He noticed that she was still hanging from the wall. You think you're capable? You think you're capable? She taunted him. These chains are entirely composed of the Omi spells, quite strong ones at it. They are also reinforced by Senjutsu, plus the spell behind me is designed to suppress my body and power. She explained that the things holding her were quite a few big deals. If I can't do at least that much, then I wouldn't have accepted your conditions, he replied back at her. Rebellion. He intoned the name of the swords. 4 of the 7 made their appearance, floating around him in a circle. The sight surprised the female, but before she could ask, he whispered under his breath, Hellblaze. The 4 swords got covered by purple and black flames. He pointed his right and forward, and 4 swords were launched as if he shot from a gun. They turned into black missiles that held a huge amount of power. Kin, kin, kin. The blades hit the 4 chains and cut through them as if made of butter. Soon they impaled the pentagram behind her and started to slowly burn it. She was so surprised by that she didn't even notice the moment that she started to fall. Issei sped towards her and caught her before she hit the ground. Are you okay? He asked. My hero, she teased him a little bit, placing a hand on her head, trying to be dramatic. Already teasing me, woman? He was unaffected by her teasing. Since he had experience in the field, he grew accustomed to it. I have a name, you know, she told him while turning her head that covered by her bangs. Her voice was still as raspy as before. And what may that be? He smiled slightly when he saw her talk like that. It seemed she was getting faster than he thought. Oh, she was amused, flirting with me already. Quite the player, she tried to tease him again. Since we're going to be together for some time, I guess we should know our names. Better than calling you woman, right? He ignored her tease, managing to get a glare from her. I do not think I can make you blush. She came up with the new goal inside of her head. I'll tell you my first name, he said, maybe a chivalrous sign. My name is Issei Hyodo. Those words made the woman widen her eyes. The Sekirei? What are you doing here? She was surprised by what the famous war hero was here in the middle of nowhere. She was also stunned. Why did he seem so different than the way they described him as? What exactly are you doing here? Freeing a prisoner from an allied faction, she was thinking when she heard Issei's response. That's for me to know and you to figure out, he teased back with a smirk on his face. Huh, that won't be enough. She thought as she left her embraced and touched the floor with her leg. She was only wearing a badly damaged black dress that reached above her knees, but she wasn't able to stand up for long and her legs gave in. However, she was caught before she hit the ground. It seems you've lost the feeling on your legs being chained for too long. You seem entirely different from what I heard, she voiced her thoughts. This shocked Issei momentarily, but smirked. Ha! And how did they describe me as? Still holding her in Princess Carrie. He then noticed how she had quite in the big bust and white skin. A pity that her face was still covered by her hair and only red eyes could be seen in between her bangs. As a kind but dumb perverted boy that didn't know much of the world. Taking a look at Issei, she giggled as she saw his eyebrow twitch. And how do you see me as? He was interested in how he looked right now. As a cold and serious man that has been through much, but also kind and good, she explained how she saw him. Quite the difference, right? You have no idea, she quickly answered, her legs gaining the strength she lost. Seeing this, he let her go. She was finally able to stand up. I also do not sense a sacred gear within you. How could I be sure that you're the one that you say you are? She raised her guard up, her voice sharpening and also turning colder. In a short time that we've met, you've already know what my character is like, he told her, back with his piercing eyes and a cold voice. For a moment she looked at him, scanning him from the top to bottom, trying to find a vestige of a lie, but she couldn't find a thing. She then sighed. She sounded exhausted. Yeah, you're right. You do not seem like someone that lies. Too prideful for that. She shrugged her shoulders and started to move around, trying to regain feelings in her legs. She quickly turned around and looked into his eyes, seemingly thinking about something. What happened, by the way? I don't think the words of them were wrong. It's impossible for them not to notice how your character truly is. Let's say life hasn't been kind to neither of us, he told her while looking directly at her eyes. What's with those eyes? They seem so dark when he mentioned it. She thought, with intrigue, and reached a conclusion. I see, so you also suffered, huh? Issei just nodded in his head. Staying still, she reached her hand towards her. reached her hand towards her head. Then she grabbed her hair and moved it from her face while starting to comb it. After some time, she turned towards Issei, which seemed to be thinking about who knows what. Well, I'll tell you my name as well. Lifting the tattered hems of her dress, she replied, "My name is Beni Kochi Mifuki, Akiobo no Yoko." As she said that, she spreads her tails like a fan. 9 tails with red and black fur were shining all over the darkness of the cave. The red color was very striking, and it looked more opaque and less bright, but not less impacting. Her ears were the same. But what took his breath away was her beauty. Even to him, that had lived with extreme beauties, he was awestruck. Ho ho, she noticed the looks he was giving her. Perhaps amazed by my beauty, she asked him, while gifting him a serious smirk. But she never expected his response. "Of course," he replied instantly, without a hint of lust or pervertness. Hearing his words, she sheeted away, turning her whole body around while hiding the blush on her cheeks. She thought he would be more timid or reserved, but it appeared that he was very direct and honest. "Don't say it like that," screaming inside her head. She tried to calm down. Meanwhile, Issei was still amazed by her. She seems to be the kind that has a good personality, with a few faults here and there, but no one is perfect, he shrugged. She's also an extremely beautiful woman, better looking than all the women I have met. Quite the finding. Fuki looked like a young woman not older than 19. She had pitch black hair approaching the inky black dead of the night. Her hair was extremely long to the point that it was past her waist. It also tied by a large red ribbon at the end of it. A couple of bangs fell down to her face, but they didn't mask her beauty at all. Her eyes were an opaque red in color and looked like a pair of shining rubies. She had a delicate face, white pearl-like teeth, and her skin was milky white without a single blemish. It looked soft to the touch and just perfect in all aspects. Her lips were the kind of dry, maybe because she was trapped in here, but she still had a healthy pink to them. Her body was exuberant. Every place that needed to be full was filled to the brim, whether her bust or her rear, they were perfect. Her waist was tight and delicate, gave her a sexy look just like the seductress in an ancient table. God, this makes me feel weird. Her black dress in red accents and was held by 2 straps by the shoulders. They looked like an exposed large part of the shoulders and bust. It was frilled at the end, and it made it look like an elegant, classy, even though it was broken at some places. "Hello?" she spoke to him again. "Sorry, lost in thought." Issei quickly came back to himself when he heard her voice. "Let's hear the story of the treasure. I'm interested," he told her with the stars in his eyes. He can also be the kind of childish with things he takes interest in. Huh, noted. "Fine by me." She positioned herself in a relaxed and carefree stance and began to tell her story. "You know about the story of Tamino no Me, right?" He only nodded. I'm just gonna skip the whole entire story because nobody really cares. And then we'll pick up like kind of in the middle. "Don't worry, we'll get the treasure back, and I promise that you will be happier now, or at least you won't be bored with me." Issei broke the uncomfortable silence as he made her promise to her, shocking the Fuki even further. Nodding, she simply said, "Thank you." She started to believe in him a little bit more. "So, where's the treasure at?" he asked, hoping his guesses about the location were wrong. "Thanks to the dumb guys guarding me, I figured out what will be exposed this day on a ridiculously important party." Fuck me, just my luck. He was angered, and he had his suspicions about the location, but it was really turned out to be the party. Fine, he made a promise, so as a man he should keep it. "Are you sure it's not a normal party?" Interrupted by Issei. Yeah, I know about it. A party in which even gods may appear. Of course, the Japanese Shioto is a must." His words made her eyes widen. "You knew?" "Had my suspicions," he answered in a flash, getting a small smile from her. A man of his word, at least. She started to like him just a tiny bit more. "Where's it at?" he asked back. "According to the loud voice of the yokai outside, on Kyoto's imperial palace." Of fucking course, a place guarded by many, a really safe location, more so if gods were going. "Do you know anything more?" he asked, trying to get as much information as he could. "Yes, it will start today at midnight, and no invitation is needed. Aside from that, she knew nothing more." "Good, we have time to prepare, we should leave," he soon concluded. Where he came, but it was already late, so he didn't know what time exactly. "How so?" "The place is filled with yokai, and when I leave, the cave has an alarm that will alert everyone," she asked, kind of worried. "Every yokai has been knocked out by me. About the alarm, is that something you can do? I can take us out of here, but the alarm will still activate." He could still use his darkness and take both of them out of here, but the problem was the alarm. "Maybe I can, but I will need some time," she told him with a hand on her chin. "How much?" "Not sure." Her voice held a hint of doubt. She wasn't exactly her best right now. However, since he had nothing to lose, he promised her he decided to try it out. Fine, let's get out of here. You can check the alarm outside. Walking side by side, approached the big semi-broken lead door. He pushed it open and said while doing a bow, he said, "Ladies first." About. She smirked and replied with a flirty tone, "My, what a gentleman," and proudly walked out the door, Issei behind her. Reaching the main entrance of the cave, she stopped. "This is as far as I can go without activating the alarm," she told Issei, who nodded while putting his hands in his coat pockets. "Time to work. I hope I didn't get too rusty," a frown again adorned her face. Soon after, her aura increased and started to surround her body. It was an opaque red in color with a tint of gold and silver. "Good aura," Issei complimented as a response. As he only winked from her, "Let's start." Her aura increased even more, shaking the cavern. Many magic circles with the shapes of hexagons appeared on their wrist. All of them were different of colors but shared a similarity. They had the Taiju symbol at the center. They varied in color, from red to green to white to black, and a myriad of others. "What are they?" He seemed interested in those hexagons. "These circles are what we yokai use to manipulate senjutsu more effectively. The color represents the element. Since I'm pretty good at it, I have all the affinities, including the rare light and dark affinities." The hexagon started to spin clockwise around her wrist. Different yokai have different attributes. While Yojutsu is based more on changing the flow of energy on the battlefield, that's why the illusions are realistic. And the Toki is just excessive light force you have. It's useful for physical attacks, defense, and any kind of enhancement, but aside from that, it's not that good. Issei finally understood about those three mentioned powers. "I see, thank you. It was nothing." After she started to concentrate even more, the hexagon started to spin faster, and a pale, white-ish aura surrounded her. Toki. Having fought against Sire Auric, he knew Toki pretty well. Does that mean she's capable of using Yojutsu as well? He started to think, if she could use the former too, then the third shouldn't be a problem. Crack! While in his thoughts he heard a sound. It was that of the glass cracking and falling apart. Looking at his surroundings, he witnessed as space itself started to crack and many pieces began falling down to earth. The effect lasted seconds, and before anyone noticed, the place returned to what it once was. "There, done." A little bit tired, Fuki said to Issei, which only nodded his head with a slight smile on the edge of his mouth. "Good, now we can leave." "How will you do that?" Interested, she walked closer to him. "Watch," he responded as his darkness started to cover as a part of his left arm. She was surprised. She didn't know what that stain was, but she sensed how Issei's power increased exponentially. "What is that?" She was shocked. Never would she have thought that little black spot would have increased his overall strength by that much. Issei ignored her surprised face and concentrated in using his darkness. "Hellgate," he mumbled. In the front of the dark portal, in the shape of a circle that made its appearance, some purple lightning could be seen on its edges, and frankly, it looked creepy. "Let's go," he said to her, which didn't answer. "What is that?" "You can say it's like a magic circle, but much stronger," he synthesized, the purpose of the Hellgate title. "Come, let's go before someone notices something wrong." He walked toward the portal and soon vanished. "It appears that I won't have to get bored while being around you." She gathered her courage and went inside. After she went through, the portal disappeared as if it never existed in the first place. The portal appeared on the top of the Fushionari. Since it was already nighttime, the location was closed to the public. A man appeared on the top of the mountain and just stood there looking at his surroundings. Next, a beautiful woman appeared next to him. "That was weird," she commented as they went out the portal. "Well, it does its job," Issei talked and shrugged. Fuki was just staring at every location the scenery had to offer. Her eyes looked practically filled with sparkles. It seems that after being in that place for far too long, she missed the outside world. He stared at her for a while until she recovered. He smirked. "Looked enough?" While teasing her a little bit, Issei smirked. She blushed slightly and turned her head to the left. "Quite the cute response," he discreetly smiled. While placing a hand on her hip and looking at him, she asked, "Where are we?" "At the top of the Fushimi-Inari," he replied instantly. She showed a surprised expression. "Interesting in the location they ended up in. I see. Quite the useful ability you have." She stood at the side and replied. "It can also hide the presence of the ones that walk through it," he added, only getting the twitch of her eyebrow as an answer. Oh, how he liked messing with her. "Where is the Imperial Palace?" he asked, since the last time he came here he didn't go there. "Well, around north or east from here, I think." She made a more or less sigh with her hand. Issei deadpanned at her antics. "We still have a lot of time left, so don't sweat the small things. We should have around 4 hours by the position of the moon." While looking at the moon, she made her guess. He decided to push the problem for later. He walked towards the stone case and turned around to tell her, "Well, want to get out of here?" "Sure, I'd love to." Fuki tagged along and stood by his side. Together, they walked all the way down the main gate, seeing the beautiful scenery and the lights and torches illuminating the path and the torii. They walked side by side, enjoying the atmosphere. Then Fuki spoke to Issei. How are we going to get inside? The question was soon answered by Issei. Through the main door, he replied back soon and explained his plan. I guess you can use Jujutsu, he asked her. That and Ominomi arts, she smiled with pride. That comment made Issei think, you're capable of everything, aren't you? Well, get formally dressed. After all, we have to arrive at the entrance. Someone will ask us who we are. Use your illusions to make them think that we're someone else and confuse them. The moment we get inside, we will search for the information we need and find the treasure to get out as fast as possible. Plain and simple. And if we can't get out, she questioned, worried about the possible outcome. We go for the treasure and fight our way out. His eyes sparkled ever so slightly as he said that. I can work with that. She lived this simple and plain, easy to understand and put into practice. After getting out of here, we should change our clothes, unless you can cast an illusion on us that make us wear our formal clothing. He probed her with an amused smile. She rolled her eyes and nodded. As she used her powers, a layer of mist covered them both from head to toe. After a solid minute, the mist disappeared and left a perfectly suited Issei with his hair combed back. He wore a formal onyx-colored suit and a black suit vest, all accompanied with crimson dress shirt. He also removed his tie and left the last button of his shirt open. The suit looked form-fitting and made him stand out from many. Combined with his roguish looks and vibe, he will catch many glances. Fuki, on the other hand, had her hair cascading like a waterfall down her back. She wore a cocktail dress in the opie red color and a few black accents. It was open at the side, letting her beautiful leg up and a thigh could be seen. She wore a pair of black high heels that raised her height to almost match Issei, which stood just above 1.85, about 6 foot 1 inches. You are amazing, he complimented her while moving around, checking the suit out. She only smiled proudly, but a little blush adorned her cheeks, making her look even more astonishing than before. With this, we're ready, but we still have a little bit of time before the extra time. We still have a little bit of extra time, he told her as he walked next to her. True. Maybe we should do something. Her forefinger rested on her cheek. Issei approached her and asked, Want to have dinner? She was amazed by his courage. Nevertheless, she leaned forwards and towards his ear. Already asking me for a date, Issei? She whispered huskily as she licked her lips. He remained the same, not a hint of shock in his face. Maybe we can get to know each other, each a little better, he shrugged. Plus, I doubt we'll eat anything during the party. He offered his arm to the beauty to the chivalrous sign. She took it and said, True, it sounds like a good idea. Then both of them walked off and then the mountain and left. While grabbing his arm, she asked, What would you like to eat? He turned to look at her and responded, How about we celebrate that we got you out of jail? That sounds like fun. As if you bailed me out. Technically, I did. She hit him. Don't be a smartass. Her face looked cute in Issei's eyes. Then let's eat, milady. He bowed again to her, this time making her giggle. Lead the way, Issei. He happily led her to a fancy-looking restaurant in which they ate kaiokasasi, elegant and expensive food here in Kyoto. It consisted of local Kyoto cuisine presented in its extremely elegant design and had 12 courses. The plates were kind of small, but because of the quantity, it was rather filling. They talked about random stuff, their likes, dislikes, food, music, and world traveling plan of Issei, which grabbed the attention of the fox. However, they did not delve deeper into each other's lives. Issei knew that she was trying to give him a chance to gain her trust. After all, they just met today, but he believed that after taking some time, they will become a little bit closer, maybe friends. Both of them enjoyed the food, and as soon as the clock 30 minutes to midnight, they parted from the restaurant and walked towards the Imperial Palace. That thanks to the waiter who told them the direction. The palace wasn't that far away from the restaurant they were at, so that wasn't long. Shortly, the building they were looking for made its appearance, but it closed, empty and desolate. They knew something wasn't right. What do you think? Issei asked the QB as she looked at the direction. A barrier and an illusion. Those were her words. I see. A barrier for security and illusion for fooling the normal humans. Quite smart. That should be correct. She smiled at him, making Issei lift in the corner of his mouth. Let's go! The woman was excited. She grabbed his arm and dragged him into the random direction. After a couple of meters, they passed the barrier. The entire palace was lit with bright lights and torches at its sides. The entire palace was filled with the voices as classical music. And that is where we're going to stop for now. Sorry, I just wanted to update everybody on a couple of things right before you guys leave. What If Issei had Ultra Instinct the movie? Once again, I'm going to try to time it right as if I hit 30K. Well, that's going to be kind of hard. It's probably going to be around 30,000, like 30 subscribers to be exact. And I'll be like, I'll release it just then. But thank you so much for the support. We're so close to 30K. So if you have not hit the subscribe button, hit it now. I can't wait. It's going to be a great live stream that we're going to do and everything like that. Obviously, you guys are going to see my face again for the people who haven't. I'll just title it Face Reveal again because why not? And then, obviously, what ifs for many other animes will be coming soon, as well as keeping the High School DxD motive. 30K subs off of High School DxD in general is kind of insane. The anime isn't as popular as you guys would think so, even though I still believe that it is the most popular harem series ever. But thank you so much for the support. Hit the like button, please. If you guys want to become a balance breaker or a limit breaker, I'll send the link out, obviously, at the beginning and the end, just in case if you guys want to during the stream to make it more epic on your behalf. But thank you so much for the support. Like, I cannot thank you enough. Once again, subscribe to my Dragon Ball channel and Fallen DxD and Popowski down in the description below. And without further ado, Spartanic Arts DxD out.